When John Wayne died in 1979, his estate was valued at $6.85 million, a figure that was considered modest for a superstar of his stature. This raised questions about his spending or generosity, or the possibility that some assets were not included in his will. The controversial will excluded his estranged third wife, Pilar Palet, and left the bulk of his estate to his 7 children and secretary. The decision sparked long-running disagreements and legal battles within the Wayne family, sealed secrets, and a legacy that continues to be debated to this day. Join us as we explore his legacy and the truths that have yet to be revealed, a haunting image. The doors of his magnificent Newport Beach, California, beachfront mansion were sealed shortly after his death in 1979. "Get the hell off my spread." His heroic catchphrase still seems to echo somewhere. Inside the house, not just the furniture, but also a treasure trove of memories, letters, photos, personal items, all locked away, isolated from the world for more than 3 decades. Why the secrecy? What was hidden? In 2011, when the door was finally opened, the world was stunned. From record-breaking movie props to a shocking will that tore apart the family, the story of the Duke's fortune and real life began to unfold more fully than ever. John Wayne's surprising fortune and a shocking will. When the curtain was lifted on John Wayne's fortune after his death, many were surprised. At the time of his death in 1979, the total value of his estate was listed in his will as $6.85 million. For a superstar of Wayne's caliber, who dominated the silver screen for decades and was one of the highest-paid actors of all time, this figure seems quite modest. This has given rise to much speculation. Was Wayne a spendthrift during his lifetime, or was he an extremely generous man who gave away much of his fortune? It is also possible that not all of his assets were listed in his official will. One example is his beloved yacht, the Wild Goose. The former World War II minesweeper was sold for $750,000 shortly before his death. This sum may not have been part of the $6.85 million estate, adding to the mystery of the true total worth of the Duke's estate. Wayne was also a real estate enthusiast. His Newport Beach waterfront mansion, where he spent his final years, was one of his most famous. He bought it in 1965 and lived there until his death. The house, which sits right on the water, overlooking Balboa Island, looks modest from the street, but is spacious and luxurious inside, a reflection of the owner's personality. After his death, the house was sold for $5.5 million in 1980, a very high price at the time. Before moving to Newport Beach, he owned a 5-acre ranch in Encino. He also owned other properties in Arizona and Washington, demonstrating his love of diverse landscapes and his acumen for real estate investing. He once joked that moving to Newport Beach early was a smart decision, because I certainly couldn't afford it now. However, the most shocking and controversial part of John Wayne's will was the content of it. When it was released, the biggest shock was that he left no assets to his third wife, Pilar Palet, even though they had never formally divorced. As mentioned, they had been separated since 1973, 6 years before his death. Instead, Wayne left the bulk of his estate to his 7 children, from his first 2 marriages to Josephine and his third to Pilar, his companion and caretaker in his final years. Pat Stacy also received a share of the estate. The decision to leave Pilar out of the will sparked endless speculation about their actual relationship in their final years and the underlying reasons behind the decision. It also sowed the seeds of a long-running legal battle within the family. Years later, in 2010, Wayne's daughter, Isa, filed a lawsuit against her brother, Ethan, who ran John Wayne Enterprises, over her interests and stake in their father's estate. The will also distributed personal items and movie memorabilia to the children, but these items themselves became a source of tension and disagreement, showing how complicated and heartbreaking it can be to divide the legacy of a major icon. And then, in October 2011, more than 30 years after the Newport Beach mansion was sealed, a special event took place that allowed the public and fans to access the treasure trove of John Wayne's memories for the first time. A massive auction of more than 700 personal items and memorabilia, the Duke's Hollywood movie sale, was held at the Hyatt Regency Century Plaza in Los Angeles. It was a truly unique opportunity to own a piece of Hollywood history, a piece of the Duke's life. Many of these items have been locked away in storage since his death. Bringing them to light is like opening a time machine, revealing the real and everyday aspects of a legend. The auction includes everything from iconic costumes, movie props, prestigious awards, home furnishings, personal items. Some items in particular attracted attention and fetched record prices. The green beret worn by Wayne in the 1968 film of the same name sold for a staggering $179, 200 setting a world record for a movie costume hat. This hat was more than just a prop. It was a symbol of one of his controversial but also very famous roles, expressing Wayne's conservative political stance and strong patriotism. Another hat, his favorite cream-colored cowboy hat, which accompanied him in many classic westerns such as Big Jake and the Cowboys, also sold for a whopping $119,500. This hat is almost the epitome of John Wayne himself on screen. The Golden Globe Award he received for his role as Rooster Cogburn in True Grit also sold for $143,400. This award was the premise for his only Oscar win, a milestone in his career. Interestingly, even seemingly ordinary personal items can reach incredible prices. His final driver's license, which expired on his birthday in 1979, just weeks before his death, sold for $89,625. This shows the immense charisma and iconic value of everything associated with the name John Wayne. Wayne's scripts with notes and markings were also auctioned, providing an insight into his working process. A collection of colorful neckerchiefs that he loved and often used in Western movies also sold for $11,755. The pants he wore in The Alamo, the shirt that appeared in many movies, all became valuable memorabilia, allowing fans to feel closer to their idol. The auction not only introduced the film career, but also revealed the person John Wayne. A gold-plated Winchester rifle he gave to his friend Bob Shelton sold for $13,315, a testament to his generosity. His personal library of books on history and military strategy revealed his intellectual interests. A surprising find was his collection of seashells, revealing a softer, nature-loving side to the silver screen hero that few people know about. A portrait of John Wayne by artist John Decker, which once hung proudly in his home, sold for $71,700. Family photos, personal letters, furniture, all painted a fuller picture of John Wayne. The auction was an unprecedented event, not only bringing in millions of dollars, but also helping to unravel some of the secrets that had been sealed for 3 decades, bringing the Duke's physical legacy to the public. However, John Wayne's legacy was not all about the spotlight. It also cast a long shadow of controversy, particularly regarding his statements and views on race and social issues, which continue to be deeply divisive to this day. At the heart of the controversy was a shocking interview he gave to Playboy magazine in 1971. At the age of 63, an icon admired by the entire United States, Wayne made comments that shocked and outraged many. The most controversial and often quoted line was, "I believe in white supremacy until the blacks are educated to a point of responsibility." He went on to say, "I don't believe in giving authority and positions of leadership and judgment to irresponsible people." These were not spontaneous words. In the same interview, he also expressed his views on Native Americans, arguing that there was nothing wrong with white people taking their land. "I don't feel we did wrong in taking this great country away from them. There were great numbers of people who needed new land, and the Indians were selfishly trying to keep it for themselves." He also called it a matter of survival. Wayne has also been outspoken in his criticism of films he believes go against traditional values. He called the Oscar-winning film Midnight Cowboy perverse and used a homophobic slur to describe the relationship between the two main characters. These statements, nearly half a century later, came back to haunt his legacy in February 2019, when an excerpt from the Playboy interview was widely shared. On Twitter, a screenwriter called Wayne a terrible person, and the tweet quickly went viral, sparking a fierce global debate about how we should view John Wayne. John Wayne's tumultuous personal life. John Wayne's love life was complicated and tumultuous, with 3 marriages spanning nearly 50 years and several high-profile affairs. His first wife was Josephine Alicia Sands. They married in 1933 when Wayne's career was just beginning to take off. They had 4 children together: Michael, Mary Antonia, Tony, Patrick, and Melinda. However, Wayne's growing fame meant that he was often away from home to film. The pressures of work, long trips, and perhaps the temptations of Hollywood gradually created a distance between the two. Things got worse when Wayne began a secret affair with legendary actress Marlene Dietrich around 1938. Although Wayne tried to mend the relationship, even taking Josephine on a vacation to Mexico in 1943, the marriage could not be saved. They were officially divorced in 1945. Wayne's second marriage to Mexican actress Esperanza Chatabor in 1946 was described as stormy, passionate, but also extremely unstable. Esperanza was notoriously jealous. She constantly suspected Wayne of infidelity, especially with co-star Gail Russell during the filming of Angel and The Bad Man 1947. This led to a divorce in 1954 after many arguments and noisy lawsuits. John Wayne's third and final wife was Pilar Palate, a Peruvian actress. They met while Wayne was filming in Peru and married in 1954, the same year he divorced Esperanza. This marriage was the longest lasting, nearly 25 years, and they had 3 children: Aisa, John Ethan, and Marisa. For many years, their family life seemed more stable than before. Pilar often attended events with her husband and accompanied him on film sets. However, in 1973, after nearly 20 years of marriage, Wayne and Pilar decided to separate. The official reason was not made public, but there was much speculation about lifestyle differences, and Wayne spending more and more time on work and friends. After the separation, Wayne moved in with his personal secretary, Pat Stacey. It is worth noting that, although they lived separately, John Wayne and Pilar Palate never officially divorced until his death. In his later years, after separating from Pilar, John Wayne found companionship and care in his longtime secretary, Pat Stacey. 34 years younger than Wayne, Pat not only managed his business, but also became his devoted companion and caregiver during his battle with illness. She stayed by his side throughout his cancer treatment, managing his daily life and ensuring he always had the support he needed. They lived together from 1973 until Wayne's death in 1979. After his death, Pat Stacey wrote the book Duke, a love story 1983, sharing memories of their time together, revealing a softer, more vulnerable side of him that the public rarely saw. Pat Stacey never married and spent the rest of her life preserving John Wayne's memory. John Wayne's career was not only closely linked to John Ford, he also made his mark in many other films, faced great challenges, and finally reached the pinnacle of fame with an Oscar. Wayne's first Oscar nomination came in 1949 for his role as Sergeant John Stryker in the war film Sands of Iwo Jima. Initially, Wayne was reluctant to take on the role, feeling it was too similar to the tough military characters he had played. However, Herbert Yates, president of Republic Pictures, was determined to have Wayne. He made an offer he couldn't refuse: $250,000 plus a share of the profits, a huge sum at the time. The filming of Sands of Iwo Jima was extremely arduous and dangerous. Director Alan Dwan wanted the battle scenes to be as realistic as possible, so they used real flamethrowers and explosives. This led to several accidents on set, including an explosion that knocked Wayne unconscious for half an hour and forced filming to stop for 2 days. The film was also notable for its inclusion of actual documentary footage from the Battle of Iwo Jima, provided by the United States Marine Corps. Wayne's powerful, emotional performance as Sergeant Stryker was critically acclaimed and earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. One of John Wayne's biggest projects and gambles was The Alamo 1960. He had been planning to make a film about the historic battle for over 15 years. Not only was it a film in which he starred as Davy Crockett, but it was also one that he directed and produced himself. To raise the funds, Wayne had to mortgage nearly all of his assets, his house, his cars, even his beloved yacht. The total production cost was $12 million, a huge and extremely risky sum in the early 1960s. Wayne demanded perfection and historical authenticity down to the last detail. He built a one replica of the Alamo Fortress right in Brackettville, Texas. The project took 2 years to complete, used more than 5 million adobe bricks, and strictly followed the architectural details of the 1830s. The set was so magnificent that after the film was completed, it became a tourist attraction for many years until 2009. Filming the Alamo was a Herculean effort. The film crew mobilized more than 7,000 extras, 1,500 horses, and shot continuously for 79 days in the scorching Texas heat, with temperatures sometimes reaching over 43 degrees Celsius. Despite all the difficulties and financial pressures, Wayne was undeterred, determined not to cut any corners to ensure his vision was realized. The Alamo's premiere was extremely spectacular with parades and fireworks. The film received 7 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. However, critics were mixed, and box office receipts were not enough to cover the huge production costs, leaving Wayne in serious financial difficulty. Even more sadly, he did not receive a nomination for Best Director, a great disappointment for him personally. Still, the Alamo left a lasting impression on the public's perception of the epic battle, and is a testament to John Wayne's artistic ambition and daring. It wasn't until 1970 that John Wayne finally won the prestigious Oscar for his role as Rooster Cogburn in True Grit. Wayne initially turned down the role. He felt he was too old, and his health had been deteriorating after lung cancer surgery a few years earlier. But after reading the original novel by Charles Portis, he realized this could be the role of a lifetime. In 1964, at the age of 57 and at the height of his career, John Wayne received devastating news. He had lung cancer. For a heavy smoker like Wayne, it was reported that he smoked up to 6 packs a day for many years. The diagnosis was shocking, but not entirely unexpected. Doctors decided to perform a major operation, removing his entire left lung and 2 ribs. It was an extremely dangerous operation, with a survival rate of only about 50%. But with a strong will, he survived and spent the next 5 years without any signs of cancer. However, in 1979, the cancer returned, this time in his stomach. He tried a new treatment vaccine, but it was unsuccessful. Even as his health deteriorated, lying on his deathbed, Wayne continued to speak out. He recorded messages calling for more government and public funding for cancer research. Just weeks before his death, he told people, "Perhaps they'll find a cure for cancer without your help, but I wouldn't bet my life on it." John Wayne's final film, The Shootist, released in 1976, seemed like a preordained farewell. In the film, he plays an aging, legendary gunfighter who is dying of cancer, a role that mirrors Wayne's own life at the time. What do you think about John Wayne's death? Leave your comments below. We hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next videos. Bye.